Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Horse Business Podcast with me, George Betson, the equestrian business strategist and founder of Fonchor Equine Transport. And I am so excited to be bringing you a special guest today. And on today's show, we're going to sit down with Harry Spinks. Harry is running a multi-practitioner practice for farriers, bringing the A game to our industry. The best farriery advice, support, hints, tips, and understanding how it works as a business is everything you're going to find inside this episode. So please pop your headphones in, take a seat, or grab a cup of coffee because this is going to be an episode not to miss. Enjoy the show. Harry, thank you for ever so much for joining me on the show today.
Not a problem at all. Thank you for having me.
So this is going to be a really interesting conversation because I think your topic is actually quite a hot topic in the space for various different reasons. So before I say anything else, would you like to just introduce yourself, who you are and what you do?
So my name is Harry Spinks and I am a farrier based in Dorset of the UK. I run a multi-farrier practice and we go locally, nationally and internationally to help the horses and the clients in our care where they need us and to follow them around if needed to make sure their horses are in tip-top condition.
Brilliant. And so I know that you've got a relatively active TikTok channel. Do you have a lot of following on there? Do you find that helps you with your business? How does that work? What do you use it for?
So we use social media I predominantly set it up for education. So I started doing social media about, probably about 14 years ago now, just when I started qualifying, because I saw a lot of people were posting stuff on there and I was learning from it. So I thought I'd reciprocate the favour. And then from there, it's grown really. Mainly it's an educational platform, but with all these things, it's also a record of the work that we do. So if a client looks into it, they can go, let's use Harry or Joe blogs. And then they see that we've done they can see exactly what we do online and how we work. And actually it's been quite good over the years as a business recognition thing as well.
Okay, so I'm intrigued. What's one thing that horse owners get wrong about farriery?
I suppose at the moment, the biggest thing is feet can go longer during winter. I mean, I'm in a t-shirt and I've been in a t-shirt all day today. Feet don't, if you're in deepest, darkest Canada at -40, feet will stop growing. But if you're in the UK, feet will keep growing and they will need to be trimmed on a 3 to 5 week rotation. There's not many feet that we shoe or trim on a post 5 week rotation because they just get too long. Feet grow out of balance within 3.5 or visibly grow out of balance within 3.5 weeks. If you want your horse to be the best it can be and reduce your vet bills as much as possible, then, it is recommended that you trim them and shoe them as often as your farrier recommends. And don't skip it because actually you are causing problems in the future. I think I read somewhere that I think it was. Let me pull up. Somebody put a figure on not an Instagram, a LinkedIn post that I did the other day, and it made me think. It was 600. The American Veterinary Medicine Association Journal reported the American horse owners lose £800 million in lameness a year.
Wow.
Value on their competing horses. And with between 60 and 75% of all problems originating in the hoof. That's just something to consider as a horse owner.
That's huge. Yeah, that's a statistic and a half if anyone's listened to that, because I think it's undervalued. It's underrated. I mean, to be fair, over the years, so it's interesting. As you go through different competitors, different types of riders, different sports, I find that those rules and parameters are also different. So, for example, I'm within the thoroughbred space where you'd probably expect them to be reshod every 4 to 6 weeks. I've been in the dressage space where I'd probably say is more sort of 5 to 7 weeks, and then I've been in the the space where you've got people just casually enjoying their horses. But I know people that go up to 10 weeks. So why would there be such a disparity in that? Is it just preference, cost, or is it a lack of understanding?
I think it's because it's education where it should be done on a more regular basis.
No.
And that, well, it's always been 10 weeks. I've never had a problem. And then suddenly you have a problem that you don't associate that problem with the fact that your horse has been 10 weeks. You associate that problem with the fact that your horse has got a problem. You don't go, actually, I could have mitigated this problem about 4 years ago by making sure that my horse was done on a 4 or 5 week rotation. And don't get me wrong, we've got some horses that I know I just said that most of ours are done 4 or 5 weeks. We have got a couple of trims that really don't grow any foot, so they get done like every 7 or 8 weeks. But as a general rule, if we get back to a horse and there's nothing to take off, then we don't take it off. But this summer we've had laminitic ponies that have been on a 3-week rotation because they've grown that much foot in that time period that they're going lame if they're done any longer than 3 weeks.
So that's a very good point. So yes, there is an average, and yes, we don't know where it came from, but I guess it is kind of down to the individual horse, just so long as you're very aware of what is happening with your horse, whether, like you say, it's growing out or down, or various other things like that, I assume.
Yeah, and I think especially with competition horses, but everybody's horse as well. If you're looking at margins of 3%, say, so 3% would get you first to second. Sometimes it's 0.5%, sometimes it's 0.25%. Then actually, if you can make sure your feet are balanced as possible, then you know that you're not going to have any problems before a competition, because it doesn't matter when your farrier's coming in, they're just going to be taking little bits off rather than large amounts. And they're going to be rebalancing that foot, so you're less likely to have problems in the shoeing cycle, and then you're less likely to have lost shoes, and you're less likely to have subsequent lameness occurs. Then from that competition space, that can really help. And then actually from just a normal owner like myself and you are, like our horses live out in the field, they get done every 5 weeks because my wife makes sure they're put in the diary whether I like it or not. And we get them squared away. But for those horses, actually, again, it's really important that they're on a cycle. So you look at Pelly, we've got an Arab cross who's got a deep digital flex tendon injury at the moment. And actually, by still maintaining his normal regular shoeing cycle, even though he's off games, still making sure he's got a pad on his feet to protect him from the floor and the hard ground that we had over the summer, and not taking him out of that, even though he's now well, he's back out in the field now, but even though he was on box rest, you allow that foot to maintain the function that it's used to, and you're not allowing those imbalances to cause a problem or exacerbate a problem. But I think a lot of it probably comes down to cost as well.
So tell us then, Harry, how did you get into farriery? Was it horses first and then the craft, or something else?
It was a woman, wasn't it? That's why I'm into farriery. I had an ex-girlfriend that suggested it to me. I took her up on the offer. I didn't know what I was doing in my life at the time. I was doing outdoor education, and I was between like seasons and jobs. I did some work experience with a farrier that lived opposite me, and I really enjoyed it. But then I didn't think anything of it for a couple of years. And then I saw another friend of mine, a farrier called Duncan Riley, and that summer, in combination of him and another farrier called Jimmy Cooper, I ended up doing about 4 or 5 months worth of work experience when I was 21. I then went to Warwickshire College to do my pre-farrier course, which for most people was a bit pointless, but for me was quite useful because I didn't know how to put a rug on, and that flip-flops were not an acceptable form of footwear around horses. All those types of things. I have subsequently learned if you put the saddle on the wrong way for your wife, you don't get asked to do it if you do that quite a few times. And if you clip rude words into the horse when you're clipping, you don't have to do it again, so it's fine. But I got into it because I was suggested to me. I did my pre-farrier. And then I was really lucky to get a great apprenticeship with a farrier called Ben Benson up in Oxfordshire. And that has allowed me to shoe horses and travel the world while I'm shoeing horses. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And what was early farrier life like, starting potentially quite late compared to some others? So how was that?
Yeah, so I started when I was about 22. 22. I qualified when I was 28. It was quite difficult. I was lucky. Ben's put me on a yard 3 mornings a week, so I was forced to learn about horse care and how to handle them properly and not just in like a college way, how to get around horses, because I hadn't been exposed to that. And then your apprenticeship is always hard. There's no way of looking at it like that. At the time, we were shoeing between 100 and 150 horses a week. So we were under a lot of horses. Ben's not doing that amount anymore, but at the time we were, and we were working hard, and I was having to learn skills that I'd never learned before. In some respects, it was great because I didn't have any preconceptions of how horses were and how you treat horses. So didn't come from a background where you tell a horse off by giving it a boot, but I also didn't come from a background where I knew how to engage with a horse that was being an idiot. So I had to learn all of that from scratch, which I think was, in hindsight, probably quite a lot, but in practice, I didn't know any different. So, that was just life. But yeah, it was hard work, but it was enjoyable. I probably only tried to quit about 20 times, I reckon.
Well, that sort of leads into then, when was when was the moment you thought, yes, I'm going to do this long term? Because you obviously went through a bit of a rough ride to get there. So was it just by sheer determination that it was going to be that, or did something click and you're like, actually, I quite enjoy this?
I enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy working with the horses. The fact that you can turn up to a lame horse and make it sound and see this little girl's face that's ponies at the bottom of the field and is about to be shot, and actually you've turned that around so that it can be better is wonderful. I am married to a horsey woman, so that probably helps because she did the maths, and it's cheaper to marry a farrier or better to marry a farrier than it is to marry a vet in the long run, apparently. I genuinely enjoy my job. I can't see me not shoeing horses, although, our business model is changing, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I just enjoy my job. I enjoy helping the horses. I enjoy working with the people most of the time. And it's given me, I wouldn't have known what I was going to do at 20. I still maintain when I grow up, I want to be a Jedi. So, I just feel lucky to be in a profession that allows me to have the lifestyle that I want to lead and build a business or multiple businesses, and also be outside all the time and working with the amazing animals that we have.
No, I love all of that. I think you're actually a shining example of somebody who didn't really know what they wanted to do, but they've gone into something, they're running with it and actually really quite enjoy it. And you start slightly later than some would. So I guess the biggest question then is, what might be the biggest misconception around young farriers if they were thinking about joining the trade?
I think it's a weird one, isn't it? Now, is hard work. It's physically hard and it's mentally hard, and you don't realize, you think your apprenticeship is hard, and then you turn up, you start working for yourself, because most farriers are self-employed, which is another weird part about our industry, which is both good and bad, and has its pros and its cons. I think that as a young adult, you've got to be prepared that it's going to be hard work, and you will be in situations that are potentially health and safety inefficient, or you're under a moving animal that has the potential to kick you and bite you and run all over you. Body will hurt, especially when you first start. But on the flip side, if you can get through that first bit of aches and pains, actually, it is a great profession to be in. It doesn't pay as well as everybody thinks it. Oh, you get your farrier and you give them X amount per month to shoe your horse, but we've all got business costs and everything like that. So it's hard work, but it's I love it. I really enjoy it, and I think if people get out of it what they put into it, so if they're really dedicated to it, they will have a great apprenticeship. If they're just doing it because they think that they're gonna be rich because they're a farrier, then they'll be sorely mistaken. And it just won't go. If their mum said become a farrier because I give my farrier a lot of money every so often, then they won't be in it for the long haul and it won't go well for them.
Perfect. Brilliant advice. So you actually touched on some points there about, you got horses that could trample on you, you've got behavioral issues, but we've also got the owners. So what's something that you deal with daily that owners would never even think about?
This is so what is a good horse for me, what's a well-behaved horse for me to be undershoeing is a completely different horse than my wife thinks is a well-behaved horse for me to shoe. Interestingly. So like when a farrier gets annoyed that their horse isn't standing stock still, it's because they've probably been under about 5 horses that day, have ragged them around, and all they want to do is just get the job done. So every little movement from that horse we can feel. Now, that's not saying the horse shouldn't move, because the horse is an animal and it's designed to move. But actually, we were talking about this the other day in the van, from a farrier point of view, if you've got a horse that lets you pick up their foot straight away, doesn't really move too much at all, lets you do what you want, you can be in and out in a relatively short period of time, and you don't get hurt as a person, and that horse doesn't get annoyed because you're trying to put it into a position that it doesn't want to be in. And a lot of that is down to training. And I think that's because people go, it's got to be able to pick his foot up for 5 minutes for my farrier to work on it, which is fine. And they teach their horses to do that. But what they don't teach their horses to do is they don't put it between their legs for 5 minutes and hold on to it and then grab a load of tools out and things like that. And as I said, it's something that actually 99% of the time isn't a problem because most horses are really well behaved. But it's one of these things that when you see your farrier like having a little swear under his breath because this horse has just tried to move him around for the 5th time, it just gets hard. And sometimes it's because they're in pain as well. You've got to think about all of these things. But a really well-behaved horse for me is completely different to a really well-behaved horse for shoeing for my wife, which just makes me chuckle. And payments, a lot of farriers get fed up with chasing payments, but I think that's by the by, isn't it? And that's a given for any industry at the moment.
Yes, I would say the same. And actually, I think a lot of what you have just said applies probably to a lot of different equestrian industries. Like horse transport is exactly the same. Like 95% of the horses that we transport are okay. And again, the ones that you imagine are going to be okay are not necessarily the ones that we know will be the well-behaved. So I think actually what you've outlined there is the general rule for the whole industry, to be honest with you.
But you're working with horses, aren't you? You're working with a four-legged animal that can't talk, and you can't bribe it by saying sit there and watch Netflix. Because it's not a small child you can just bribe away, and a lick it will only take you so far. So
yes, I've seen even lately people trying to load horses or using food as the main driver, and So what's a farrier's ick you wish people would stop doing?
I don't know. I never really thought about that. What do I wish people would stop doing? Having a lesson at the same time as their appointment's meant to be? That's annoying. I don't really have anything that's... I suppose I don't really have anything that I wish people would stop doing. Maybe they could start, like, you get certain people that just don't listen to advice as well as they should do, like, or want to look after their horse's feet as well as they should do. But that's, again, that's 1% of clients in relation to 99% of them. So no, I think most people are really good when it comes to their horse care. A lot of people, most people want to make your life as easy as possible. And be it that they take on board the advice that you're saying about training their horse in tween or getting sedation, because we have a great array of sedation now that actually can really help some horses just get over the fact that they need to be trimmed or shod. You also have the fact that with social media now and social licensing, actually most people are falling into line, I'd like to think, with the fact that they can't go around beating their horse anymore into submission. It's about actually training them properly and being nice to them, rather than going, why aren't you standing there, and then giving it a clout, which you don't see as much nowadays, which is good. But no, I don't think I have any client icks, so to speak. Sorry to ruin your reels. Yeah, I'm sure there are some, and something will really come to mind later. But at the moment, nothing like, I suppose, bringing a horse in with wet, muddy feet and expecting you to be the one to clean it. You don't go to the dentist with dirty teeth, do you? But again, that's the very minority of clients, and it doesn't happen that often.
So before we jump into the business side, want to flip the narrative slightly, because I'm well aware that there seems to be a continuous theme that farriers can be late. So why is it that farriers often turn up late?
2 reasons. One, because they're not. A lot of farriers are rubbish at communication. And I realise I'm stereotyping a lot of people there. A lot of people aren't rubbish with communication, but it's not difficult to send a WhatsApp on this thing here. I can run 3 phones sometimes out of my own little hands whilst doing a full day of work, and I can still manage to text people. I put a Facebook post up a little while ago on something about why a farrier is still rubbish at communication, and it got a lot of comments. It got about 5 or 6 farriers getting really ranty about it. A lot of farriers messaged me personally and went, thanks for bringing that up, because it's a really bad problem with our industry. A lot of owners messaged and went, this is rubbish. And then either literally the next day, we were on holiday, the office phone went off from an old client that was about an hour away, and it's only 3 trims. So it wasn't really financially worth it for us to go over there, because, it's an hour's drive. So we had to charge her the travel to get there. And she sent us a message going, I'm really sorry. The new guy was meant to turn up. He never turned up. He didn't show up. He won't respond to my messages. Bearing in mind the horses are good as gold, and he never trimmed them before. Can you please send somebody out to trim them? And we were like, yeah, that's not a problem. We can get that sorted. Because and actually that reputation of that person now within her eyes has gone down. It doesn't take much. I mean, my wife does all our office stuff, so it makes life easy for me, because me or the guys that work for us just send a message to her and go, Emily, I'm running late or I'm running early. Can you let so-and-so know? And it works really well. But I'm also more than capable of going, shit, I've just realised that I'm half an hour late. I'll send the client a quick message now or when I get back into Signal and apologise profusely and go, I really just realised I'm running half an hour late. Obviously, I'm not there. Do you still want me to come today, or do you want to rearrange for another day? And it doesn't take much. You can talk to them now. I don't know why farriers run late. I think I do. Obviously, things crop up, and sometimes it takes longer than you expect, and people might try and throw an extra horse onto you and things like that. But as long as you're very clear with people about your expectations about how your business works, and you liaise with them properly, you shouldn't really be running overly late or overly early. And you should be able to let people know when you've moved them around, or if you are running late or early.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, perfect. So
it's a bugbear of mine, farriers running late, or just professionals running late in general. I don't want to be waiting for somebody else to turn up.
No, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting, and it ties nicely into the next business section, that you have essentially a central hub, which is your partner, where people can communicate to her and then she can act out on their behalf. Was that a conscious decision, or it's just happened to go that way?
So I always wanted to run a practice because I think that it's a hard job. And actually, if you can have a few of you helping each other out, then you don't need to be doing 15 sets a day. You can do 5 sets a day and you can have a nice life. And actually for that, I always knew I would want somebody to do the admin side of it. And then we had our second child, and basically we decided that the childcare costs outweighed, or her job, that, in relation to her job, outweighed there was no point in her going back to work. So she then took over the admin role within the business at that point, and it's just made life easier. Clients can contact her. My phone, I get the Jersey clients that we do contact me. I'm looking at it at the moment because it's just flashed up, but I've gone from having maybe between 5 and 10 phone calls a day to 1 if I'm lucky, because they all ring Emily. And she's got the time then to go, right, I can answer your phone call, I can send you a WhatsApp back, I can send you our welcome pack, which is an email saying what we're all about, our client registration form, our price list and our terms and conditions. And then actually from there, the client gets a really good perspective. And that means that I can just do my job. And my job is, when I'm out shoeing horses. And I can concentrate on that without having to go, oh, my phone's gone off 50 times in that period of time. And actually, if my phone goes off, I check it, because 9 times out of time, it's Emily going, we just need to change this, or we just need to change that about. Can you just have a look? I still sort out the diary a lot of the time because I know how long it's going to take somebody to do something. At the end of the day, it makes life so much easier. And I would thoroughly recommend to everybody that they have somebody that runs a phone for them, because it takes the pressure off so much. Or even if they're just doing, like, she does all the invoicing for us. So we've got an app. We use an app called Team Up that I can set the diary up, and I can put locations, I can put numbers, and then Jake and Ned can change it. So they can go, right, actually I did a set and a trim here rather than 2 trims, or whatever it might be. And then they can write a little Farriers report in there that we can send over to the client if needed. And we can all access those notes if we need to, so that actually as a team, we can stay on top of the horses in our care. And it works a lot smoother for the client, because you're then not spending 10, 15 minutes per horse at the end of the day sending an invoice. You can pack up and go home, and then somebody else does that for you.
That you're probably ahead of the game compared to a lot of other farriers. Now, again, I'm broadly putting everyone in a bit of a box there, but from my knowledge, I don't see that there's many people running it like that. And I think that's absolutely genius, because you're also providing a hassle-free client experience. They get everything they need at the start of your relationship. It's all very clear, concise, and well managed. And I don't know. I don't feel like everyone's like that. So would you say you're ahead of the game?
I would say there are definitely people that have done it before me. So there's been a few bigger farrier services in the years. And I think especially if you're in like Lambourne and Newmarket, a lot of guys there will have a secretary, because they shoe and trim so many. But most people are one-man bands, and most people struggle. You see it all the time online. Oh, people owe me loads of money. Well, just set it up so you have somebody doing your invoicing, and then set up chaser emails. And that's reduced our amount of people owing us money by, like, I don't know, 10 grand a month or something like that, because they get a chaser email every 3 days and suddenly the bill gets paid. Or Emily rings them up and she goes, well, we're not standing up unless you paid your bill. And suddenly the bill gets paid. But if you're a one-man band and you're having to juggle shoeing horses 5 days a week, you're having to juggle family life, and you're having to juggle actually sending out an invoice, then it's really hard. I mean, putting prices up for us is really easy, because we just send out an email every year going, price rise is going to happen. Or on the invoices, it always says price rises will happen, I think it's July. And then 6 weeks before they happen, Emily sends out an email going, this is what the new price is going to be. And then it's all done, and there's no questioning about that. It's no, oh, I'm sorry, Sandra, but I'm going to have to put your prices up by £5. And then she goes, oh, I can't really afford that, even though your costs have skyrocketed by 30% and you're only putting them up by like 5%, you know. So yeah, I think we are ahead of the curve, but I would recommend that everybody has somebody that does their bookkeeping and their invoicing for them at least, because it makes life easier. And if you can get somebody to run your phone lines for you, then you can just get out there and do your job.
Yeah. And that's exactly where I'm at with my business. I'm just looking to take somebody on actually to do the phone handling, to do the message handling, to do that, all of that, because I've done it all myself up till now. But, there's only so much I can do, and I want to be driving the boxes and seeing the clients. So I think that's a really, really valid point for anyone in the equestrian business. It's about leverage and outsourcing the right things to give you the time you need on the actual services that you need to do. So how did you go from being qualifying to running it as a proper farrier business? Because I imagine, as with a lot of equestrians, many people start because they're interested in horses, but they may not have been interested in a horse like yourself. They think this is a fantastic idea. They get the qualifications. How do they know where to go after that? Because running a business isn't just like owning a horse.
So I was lucky when I was working for Ben. He was really keen that you learn the whole of the business. So I did all the ordering when I was in my third and fourth year. I did like a lot of client liaison, especially when he was away, which really helped matters. I'd essentially run his business for him when he was away. So that helped. My dad and mum used to run a really successful fire protection business as well. So I grew up watching somebody run a business from home, and all of that entails. And I always knew that I didn't like working on my own. So I always knew that I would want to have other people that would work for me. With the change of the way that the apprenticeship system works, I can't take on apprentice until I've done my degree, or my DIP HE anyway, which I'm working towards at the moment. There's that. And then, so we employ, or we subcontract 2 qualified guys that come in and help us out essentially. But I always knew I wanted to run a business. I always knew that, and it was reinforced progressively over time, that this isn't a job to do on your own. And if I want to have the lifestyle that I want to have, I need to have multiple streams of income to have that. And farriery and running a bigger farrier business is part of that.
Fantastic. So you've done your qualifications. You're now a farrier. You're starting to find clients, word of mouth. Maybe you're looking on Facebook. How do you then start to plan your route, your scheduling, and manage cancellations and things like that? Is it literally just ad hoc, make it up as you go along, or have you built a system to do that?
So I've got this thing called Google Maps on my phone that's been great, and I don't understand how people are incapable of using that either, but we'll skip that for now. Because on here, I have all of our clients put into Google Maps on a list. And when we get a new client, we input that into Google Maps so that we know exactly where they are. Normally, we get them to send us 3 words, which helps. This is now. And then we just sit down and we go, right, it's going to take half an hour. These guys can't do a Wednesday, or they can't do this, but it's going to take half an hour to get from here to here. And I always leave space in the diary, and I always have left space in the diary to get from A to B. When I first started, it didn't really matter where I was driving. I didn't really have zone days because I was doing 3 days up in Oxfordshire and then 3 or 4 days down in Dorset. So I just kind of fitted in where people could fit in. And when you first start anything, you're with the clients that are still great, but they're not necessarily the ones that stay on a schedule, or they're ones that, that don't want to pay the money for somebody that's a bit more experienced. Which is fine. And then from there, I started getting recommendations, and then we just grew it from there, really, from that recommendation. And our business has changed again with the advent of changing and having other people working for us. So we run 2 separate pricing structures. So if people want me specifically, they pay in mainland UK, or locally anyway, it's £140 a set plus travel plus extras plus VAT. But if they don't mind who turns up, and it's going to be me sometimes, no, it's going to be it's going to be Jake or Ned, then it's £115 plus travel plus extras plus VAT. And that's changed our business a little bit. What it does mean is we do try and tailor the route so that you don't have too much of a drive between people. But on the flip side, because we charge a travel fee, it doesn't necessarily matter if we're driving an hour, because that's accounted for within the pricing structure.
I don't know if does everyone plan and charge for travel time, or is it generally expected?
No.
Okay.
So most people will do a set, but like they'll go, right, I've got 5 sets today. I've got 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 2 there. But what they don't realise is actually they end up 40 minutes from home and they've done 4 hours worth of driving that day, which then equates to time, and time is this thing called money, which apparently we all need to live, which is a shame, but it is as it is. So I think we are probably the only farrier locally that charges travel. But without it, we wouldn't be able to shoe the horses that we shoe, because we'd have to maintain a really close radius, because otherwise, or you go, well, you're an hour away, so the price of a set of shoes is double the price of a set of shoes as it would be if you were 5 minutes away from home, which equates to something not quite similar, but you then equate the travel charge into your pricing. Most people don't do that. And I think that's a failing within the industry, because transporters obviously do it. Vets will charge a travel fee to get to you, because again, they're going, well, actually, if I've got to travel half an hour to get to a next client and I'm there for 15 minutes to do a trim, it's not worth it. Whereas if you can go, actually, that half an hour is £1 a minute, so I'm getting 30 quid to get there, and then I'll do the trim on top, then suddenly it is just about worth doing a single trim that's half an hour away from where you were before.
Yeah. No, that makes good sense. I do think it's something that it's another one of those things which is massively overlooked in business in the equestrian space. There's many things across the whole industry that are overlooked because it is what it is, but people don't consider the fact that you have to get to and from somewhere, and that's where they often fall down. And that's what I see in the transport space. If I'm going to liken it to what we do, is we charge a fee which is perceived to be quite, a little bit more premium. But if you actually look at the others charging what they're charging, eventually they end up in a challenging position because they haven't factored in something which they later need to pay for.
Yeah, I agree. And what farriers do is they don't factor that in, and then they moan to the client that they're having to drive an hour to get to them. Whereas actually, if they said, we're charging you a visit fee, then it doesn't matter if you're driving an hour to get to somebody, because you factor. Now, you've got other things that you've got to contemplate, like if you lose a shoe and they're an hour away, what you can do about it. So that's a business thing that you need to look at. From a purely financial point of view, if you don't do your figures every 6 months to a year, then you're never going to be running a business that kind of is a semi-successful, because it's never going to work.
Because I don't think it's drawn on enough. The figures are sometimes those things that they go day by day, taking the money, spending the money, but no one actually sits down and goes, what have I actually done and what do I actually need to achieve? How do you do that? Is it literally sitting down in front of your accounting software and reviewing it all, or do you do something different to that?
Yeah, so we know. I did the maths a little while ago, and I don't quite have them to hand. It's on the other tablet, but it basically, we need to turn over between 20 and 25 grand a month on average to make it work with the staffing levels that we've got at the moment and the stock costs that we've got at the moment. So that's an awful lot of horses, but we know that, and then we factor that into our finances, and we go, right, we're looking at shoeing X amount of horses a week or trimming X amount of horses a week based upon stud holes in the summer, average amounts of stud holes, pads and packing, and additional extras, so to speak, row pins, things like that, that then they bulk up the price a little bit so that we can then run the business model that we want to run. We rebudget. We were I was trying to do it at the weekend so I could actually tell you our current figures for a budget, but we didn't get around to it. I blame that on the children. But we rebudget try and rebudget every 6 months or so, just so that we know where we're standing in costs. So, for example, during COVID, steel went up three times, 3 or 4 times during the cost of COVID, and Farrier prices didn't follow suit. Since then, if you're getting a Farrier horse for £85 a set, probably should think about working in Tesco's.
Wow. Okay.
Because they're not earning the money they're earning out of that.
That's really powerful. I mean, I remember the day, I think when I had a loan horse, which is some years ago, I think that was sort of £65 a set. But I know now from having racehorses in, because we stabled racehorses, they were, 100 and, I'm going to guess £125 a set, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how the price has changed.
It is, and it's amazing how the price fluctuates in an area. So the prices of Farrier in the UK doesn't really change. It does, because everybody charges a slightly different price. But what it doesn't do is you don't go, right, I'm in Lincolnshire where I can base. So when I first qualified, there were four of us, we were really good friends at the same time. We all bought houses in different areas, Lincolnshire, Essex, Reading and Dorset. My mate Matt bought a house up in Lincolnshire for 100 grand. A nice three-bed house up in Lincolnshire for 100 grand. He wouldn't even have wetted his nose in Essex. And yet the prices were exactly the same. How is that work when your house price is considerably more expensive? Then, and everybody expects it to be roughly the same. This much. You see it on Facebook. My Farrier charges. What's everybody paying for their Farrier cost? It's too high. And you're like, well, it's probably too low if you take into account all of your costs, and that's not mentioning time off when you're ill, your therapy costs, like your massage costs, or your chiro costs, physio costs on a personal basis, the money that you lose if you van needs to go to the garage, all of these things need to be taken into account, and the fact that your body's broken, what the average age they think that Farrier will get an assistant is 36. So because their body's breaking down, and they can't get an apprentice now, and this is the fact for you. There's 150 people I think leaving the Farriers registration every year, and that last year there was only 16 that came onto the register. So there's going to be a slowdown in Farriers, and these mean the Farriers out there don't have help from newly qualified guys, because there's not newly qualified guys out there.
So just quickly then, you've mentioned a couple of times about the apprenticeship side of things, and you're doing your qualification, which will allow you to get an apprenticeship. But equally, you did just say that they cannot get an apprenticeship now, apprentices now. So what's actually happening in that space? What's going on there?
So I think there's two things that are happening there. The first is the system changed a little while ago, and it's made it because Farriers aren't charging enough money. It's made it not as cost effective to have an apprentice. So a lot of really good training Farriers have gone, actually we're not going to train anymore because we get them for they're on a 4-year apprenticeship. Out of that 4 years, they have a year off. So they're at college on block release, and then they have this thing called holiday. So that's a year off, and then as soon as they get to 21, they're on minimum wage. Certainly not against minimum wage. About 26 grand a year. 27 grand a year, something like that now. So you've got a fourth-year apprentice that you used to be paying. I think Ben paid me quite well for the time, but I think I should have been on £16,000 my first year, and now it's 26,000. My fourth year, and now it's £26,000. So it's 10 grand more in about 11, 12 years, and the price of shoeing hasn't gone up by that amount. So people just can't physically afford to take people on. I think you have an argument that the youth of today, because of the world that is the internet, does a lot more online as well, and they find it easier professions to go into. So actually finding the right person can be quite tricky now. We are starting to look for our first apprentice. We've got somebody in the pipeline, but he won't be ready to start until 2027, I think. So we're going to have to find a couple to kickstart things. And it's difficult to find the right person, and it's difficult to justify their pay when actually. So if you're paying them 26 grand in their fourth year, and what's that? They need to be turning over just under 90 grand to break even. Three times their salary. About 80 grand a year. They need to be helping you turnover. And a lot of people looked at it and went, that amount of work worthwhile me turning over just to have something to help me out, put my prices up by a little bit, and do 4 days a week.
Yeah. Big balance there. Yeah, I can see exactly what's going on there. But I know we're talking about Farrier right now, but I think it's not solely Farrier that's having these issues. I think that's the same across the board. I've just taken on somebody to help me with my client relations and sales, and it's part time, and you work out what you need to pay them just for a part time position. And I'm not adverse to paying the right money. It's not that, but it's actually the amount of extra net revenue they need to produce to make it worth having them, and then to be able to scale on the same prices you're already charging with the extra. I can see exactly where the problem is. It's just nothing's going up together. It seems to be the gap's getting bigger and bigger, and making it harder for us who actually are trying to create the jobs.
I think from my point of view, if I can plow in enough money to so that A we can get an apprentice, and B with more people means we can service more clients and more horses. And if we can build it up so that we have a Farrier practice that's big enough, then actually the costs will sort their lives out because you've got safety in numbers then.
True.
Whereas, as I said, a lot of people one-man bands, and they go, if I'm not working, then the apprentice isn't working, and blah blah blah. Whereas actually, if you look at it as if I'm training an apprentice, I would like an apprentice that I'm training to be at the same level that I was in year 3, which is being able to be sent out to any horse on the round, even if it's one of the top horses that you shoot, and go, I will help that horse, Ben or Harry, sorry. Ben in my case, but Harry has told me exactly what I need to do. He can't be there because he's away or whatever. But I will patch it until he can come and have a look at it. Or I'm more than capable. That person's more than capable of showing it, and then you can bring them into the fold at a later date. They're part of your business, and you pay them well enough so that they will stay within your business model. Then actually, that's how you will grow and how you will get as a Farrier business a better quality of life rather than everybody running around like a headless chicken.
Yes, that's really important, and that's where the differentiation is there from what I was saying. What you're saying is, a lot of farriers want to bring someone on board to help them and work with them, and if they need some time off, it replaces them. But actually what you're saying is you're going to train somebody to act as another one of you, and then that gives you the ability to scale and get more clients in, which then which pays for itself. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You always try and keep the same farriers for those people. And you find that when we started that, which earlier on this year, we changed our model a little bit to accommodate for growth. Actually, new clients just really they really like the fact they normally get the same farrier, but actually it doesn't matter because they know that they've got a system. Older clients has been a bit of an explanation, and most people are fine with it. Some people get a bit uppity, and that's fine because they're used to having me turn up with help. But actually, for me to grow as a business without breaking myself, I can't be everywhere. And I need we as a business need to provide a service, and that service is having farriers on the ground that I trust to be able to do a good job. But at the end of the day, saying that, the buck stops with me. So if there is a problem, I need to be the one that deals with it. Which adds another layer into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Summed it up really nicely there. So we're coming towards the end, and I just thought it'd be great to do some interesting questions based on what I see on social media, to be honest with you. So the first one I'd love to ask you is to get your opinion on barefoot versus shod and your honest opinion on that.
If I could have every horse barefoot, I would be home on time. My wife would probably love me more, and I wouldn't have to have a van that's huge on the drive at the moment with more options in it than can sink a small ship. Saying that, we trim probably about 40% of our horses are trims.
Okay.
So I am massively pro barefoot. We boot as well to help horses. And I think that can be really beneficial. I think the problem that you have now is that a lot of people go barefoot because they think it's going to be cheaper. It's not cheaper. You've got to really consider diet management, turnout, all of these things that you don't get to. You don't actually have to think about as much when you've got a pair of or a set of shoes on the bottom of your horse. They're on and they're sound, and you know they are technically considered a bandage. But I've lost clients because I've told them to take the shoes off it, and I've also lost clients because I've gone your horse is crippled because of its feet, its confirmation, its turnout. A lot of the time it's confirmation, to be honest with you. And we can help that putting something on the bottom. But you don't want to do that because you're adamant that you want your horse to be barefoot because it's natural. And then this natural horse is being ridden in a saddle with somebody sitting on their back with a pair of draw reins on it, and you're like, none of that's natural, but you want your horse to be natural on its feet, and it's still put in a stable 10 hours a day every day, and that's not natural. So you're expecting it to be natural, but you're not turning out 2,000 acres of arable desert, and it's not dying its hen. So something's got to give. But the long and short of it, I'm very pro barefoot if your horse can get away being barefoot.
Perfect. And so with being barefoot then, what's the biggest myth in hoof care? Is there something which they say is like everyone does it, it's the oil on the front of the hoof, it's all these kind of things, but yeah, what's the biggest myth in hoof care?
Black feet are better than white feet.
Okay.
They're all made out of keratin. They're all made out of the same stuff.
The only difference
between the black foot. Have you not? Oh, don't buy a horse with white feet. The only difference is that you can see bruising in a white foot, but you can't see it on a black foot. That's the only difference.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That's interesting.
I thought you'd have heard that one.
I actually haven't, interestingly. So, well, certainly not that anyone's gone, don't buy that because of that. And then one more I had written down here because I was just intrigued to know, what is your worst shoeing job that you've ever had to fix?
Depends what you mean by had to fix. Do you mean? I presume you mean you rock up and it's atrocious, and then you have to do something to it.
Yeah, like it's just broken, heels hanging off. I don't know. Yeah, something's just happened.
I think sadly you see that a lot, and it's as a general rule of thumb, the quality of shoeing in the UK is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not knocking that at all, but actually, a lot of people worry about shoe loss, and so they fit things a bit too tight.
Okay.
I suppose the worst. Yeah, the worst ones that you see are probably your laminates where the heel bones drop through the bottom of the foot.
And I guess that could be the most rewarding.
But that's not necessarily because they are the most rewarding. But it's not necessarily that you don't come across many. I say you see it a lot. You don't come across many jobs in the UK that you're like, oh my god, that is truly awful. I've shot around the world, and I can certainly tell you things about different countries that I've looked at and oh my god, that's awful. So I suppose some of the jobs that I've seen abroad have been a bit ropey at best. But a lot of the time it's trimming them back into proportion and then putting something on the bottom that is proportionate to what that horse needs, whether it's pads, packing, bar shoes, open heel shoe with potentially like repairs and things like that, where these feet run forward and splayed and gone all over the place. Actually, they're probably the worst ones. Don't get me wrong. I've seen some pretty horrific things, but a lot of the time, once you trim them back, and put something onto the bottom of their feet, so they can stand on their feet properly. 9 times out of 10, they start growing properly. And as I said, in the UK, you tend not to see things like that too often. You do see it a little bit. There are still farriers out there that are pretty rubbish. Whether or not we should have to reset our diploma or whatever the new qualification is. New exams every 5 years is I think we should do. A lot of people don't want to because it costs a lot more money. But it's one of these things that it happens, but it doesn't happen that often. And I think you get that from a trimming side of things as well. Like I saw a trim the other day that had been absolutely crucified and hammered, and it had been trimmed harder than I would have trimmed it if I was putting a shoe on it. So it's the problem that you have is that you have many different shoeing and trimming methods out there, and everybody goes there when actually a lot of people get sucked into an indoctrination that goes, I must trim it, so it's got a long toe heel. You're like, well, actually that's going to cripple it even more than just putting a shoe on it, and then you know what I mean, like. There's a lot of things out there. You don't see that many cases that are really bad anymore. The worst cases that I've seen have certainly been abroad. But the most rewarding cases, I know I've gone off tangent here. The most rewarding cases are those little laminated ponies at the bottom of the field that some kid wants to ride at a show, and they've had all their life, and suddenly it's not walking anymore, and you can help that something on the bottom of his feet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'd love to wrap up then. Seeing as this industry, in fact, let's not say this industry, this world at the moment is in a bit of an interesting state in terms of cost of living. You know, the people aren't out spending the money as much. And Farriery too will be one of those industries that will be affected. So where do you see the trade in 5 years' time based on what you know of what's going on at the moment?
So if you look at the recession in 2010, farriers that were in the UK, the farriers that were above the north-south divide, so up in the north where you need a passport to get to, suffered a bit more than the farriers that were down south, because there's a bit more financial ability down there. Mm-hmm. I think that it's something that will never go. I think that farrier practices are going to become a thing because they have to be. So as a farrier, if I've got 20 guys that are working with me, we can then turn around to the supplier and we go, we need 20 grand worth of shoes every 2 months or something. Suddenly you can then cut your cost with your supplier because you can get a bit of a discount on that. And then suddenly you can go, right, we're cutting costs with our suppliers and we can pass that on to our clients. I think with the advent of social media, people are a lot more finding it a lot more easy to criticize. So they go online, they put a bad review, or they do X, Y, and Z, which means that farriers and industry as a whole is going to have to up its game on communication. Because actually, if you have a farrier that's suddenly turns around and goes, "Speed didn't turn up for 4 days," and we're in a world now where people expect something like an Amazon order. If it doesn't happen the next day, they get really irate about the situation. Then we as an industry have to keep up with that. And I think that it's going to be harder in the future to find a farrier because, as I said earlier, the numbers are going down again, and it will possibly get to the point like the 70s and 80s where and early 90s where there just aren't the number of farriers around to help and to shoe all the horses. But there are a lot of trimmers around now because Farriers have been rubbish at service industry, provide a service that the farriers don't do.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. And you have touched on a point that I was going to bring onto that, which was social media, because, well, my question is it helping or is it hindering the farrier world being on social media? Because there's quite a lot of big sort of influential farriers out on there now. You know, obviously I've forgotten his name now, but there's several of them on there. Is it helping us, or is it actually just they're enjoying it because of the people on there, but it's not actually any good for the industry?
The honest answer to that is I don't know. So I think it's if done correctly, I think it will only help the industry. I think it's really important as an industry that we push correct and solid scientific information and not somebody going, as I said earlier, like you should be trimming this way, but there's no backing behind it, you know, or you should shoot it this way, but there's no backing behind what they're saying. There's no evidence suggests that it's a good thing or a bad thing. So I think in that respect, actually, the fact that everybody can have a platform is not necessarily great for industry because people that shouldn't have a platform do have a platform. Saying that as an industry, Farrier is in the dark ages, and it's only recently that a few more creators are coming out of the woodwork to start putting content out there. I think it's hard for people because it's really easy to judge something, or it's easy to judge something when you don't know the background behind it. So like you might shoot a horse that's really short and tight, and you leave a bit of foot on it, and people go, "Oh, you left too much foot on it, or you did this, or you did that, or you did that. Why didn't you do X, Y, and Z? Because it would have been better this or that. Whereas actually, you did it because it pulls shoes off, so it wants a little bit of foot on in case it pulls the shoe off. And you're going to be shooing it every 4 weeks. So you're going to be rebalancing it pretty regularly. And you shoot it short because it should shoe off. And the client doesn't want to lose the shoe, and you don't want that horse because it'll be sore. You will always get opinions on social media. And I went off social for about 2 years because I had a few that commented some pretty nasty stuff personally about it. And I went off, and I went, sod it. It's not personal. They're obviously in a really bad place. If I can help as many horses as I can through the social media that we do, and let's be honest, increase the profile of our business, then it's only going to be for the benefit of the horse and overall me and my family. So
yeah. No, brilliant. It's all about helping the wider community. It's sort of taking yourself out because there's so many haters on social media, and actually they're the best ones for my organic reach, to be fair. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that it's just not necessarily a direct reflection on yourself. It might be something to do with what's going on elsewhere.
100%.
So, I mean, that brings us to the end. I've got a couple of really quick fire questions, which I've not done before, but I thought we'd give it a go because it's just a bit of fun. So just quick fire questions. You've mentioned there's a certain type of horse, which isn't what your missus would say it is, but you've got your sort of favorite kind. Yeah. What's the worst horse to shoe, and what is your favorite type of horse to shoe?
Worst horse to shoe would be a little Shetland. You have to nail on two and two because it's just harder to shoot. You can stand good as gold, but it's just hard. I mean, really, the worst will be something that's trying to kick 10 bells out of you, but you can sedate that. So that's all right. And what was the other? Sorry, the best horse.
And what's the ones you do like to do? The ones that your missus wouldn't necessarily say it's those.
About 16 hands really well.
Is that? Do you prefer the height?
Not too complicated. And sorry, say again. Did
you prefer that height for a reason? Like 16 hands, is that because it's a nice height for you to stand and do the shoeing? Is there that kind of reason behind it?
Yes. Not too heavy, not too small. I don't need to bend over as much. So yeah, I reckon that's my optimum height around the 16 hand mark.
Nice. And most annoying things that horses do.
Try be a horse. When you're behind them, they go for poo. That's quite irritating. Or move slightly. That's irritating. if they're being. So I had one the other day, and it's normally a really well-behaved horse, but it hates the flies, and it was really fly, and it just couldn't cope, and absolutely lost its shit. And that was annoying to shoe. But it's just picking your battles and staying as safe as possible. And actually, in our code of conduct, it does say that you can say no. There's specifically written in it if it's dangerous, just walk away from it. So if it's a dangerous horse, walk away. An annoying horse, most of them, I say it needs to stand there, good to go, but most of them are fine. They move a little bit, and twist around a little bit, but they're not meaning to hurt you. They just want to be comfortable.
No, perfect. And finally, best hoof-related advice in one sentence.
Trust your farrier, and keep them on a really regular schedule.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Where can people find you, follow you? What's next for you? Tell us some of that.
If you type in Harry Spinks Farrier into any available search engine, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I'll pop up. That's the handle for everything.
Awesome. And
we do long form videos every Wednesday night, and then short form come out all the time. Yeah, so pop it in. And LinkedIn, Harry Spinks.
Perfect. And after this, what's next for you? Where are you heading the rest of the week? Anything interesting?
The rest of the week. I can't remember. Tomorrow's pretty busy. Wednesday's pretty busy. Shoeing. I've got an assignment to write once I finish with you tonight, and then Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon. I'm like secretly writing a book at the moment, so I'm going to try and spend some time doing that. But I've got a load of degree stuff I need to get done. Probably do that. Fanny around trying to write a book.
Oh, nice. Is that a book about Farriery?
About business.
Nice, fantastic. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today, Harry. It's been great. It's been some great business insights, some great more general sort of hoof insights as well, which will be really, really interesting for people because, as we know, most people in the equestrian business are also horse owners themselves. So that's been great. Thank you ever so much.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, that was good timing.